Welcome back to Hello Nigeria. Joining us in the studio now, we have Chase Christopher Inegbedion, who is the co-founder of Giving Garage, a project that focuses on gender equality involving men as well. In Nigeria, Chase is often known as the Pads Man, and this is because of projects where he goes about with focusing on underprivileged citizens, and especially towards girls, and actually handing out sanitary pads to people who need them. And the sanitary pad donation drive is an effort to improve learning for girls who cannot afford sanitary napkins. And honestly, Chase, welcome. And I must say, this is something amazing for me to read out today. I'm so happy that you're involved in this.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations and well done again.
Thank you
now you remember where I met you. Handle It Africa.
Yes.
Fantastic. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
So of all the things you could have done, you know, social responsibility is all about us giving back. And we talked about the non-governmental organizations being the third arm, which is not yet the case in Nigeria. But you and a few other people have decided to continually push this cause. Why did you choose pads, of all things, to do as a man?
One thing I'd like to say is that trying to drive in the conversation, the UN has something they've adopted called the E for She, where men should get involved in issues that concern women. So you're talking about female genital mutilation, cases around domestic violence. And like I always say, that we need to change the narrative around being feminist. A lot of people have changed that conversation about what do you say gender equality is. Is it about a man beating another woman, or a woman not rising up to the fact that they've been underpaid? So we talk about gender pay and a couple of other activities. So we have taken up the confidence to say, okay, if men had gotten the conversation around sexual reproductive rights with condoms and the rest, why don't we take the conversation same with pads? If we get more men involved, whereby men are buying pads for their wives, their girlfriends and friends, and the information around making it their lifestyle, then a lot of this conversation will be different. Governments will be aware. And we took it up when the case for pads were getting very expensive.
Oh, it is very expensive.
Yes, still now, girls could not afford to buy pads. And we said, okay, let's change the narrative around the disposable pads and the reusable ones. So that's the new buzzword of saying getting people to use reusable pads, menstrual cups, and a couple of other innovations that have changed to make sure at least men can also be involved, and this conversation must continue.
Now, that's absolutely phenomenal. And like you said, the He for She campaign actually advocates for things like this. So it's great to know that you're a part of that as well.
Thank you
now,
so
speaking of sanitary pads, when we often run campaigns, they're very easy to run to a certain extent. Then we get to a stage where policy comes into it, and we see ourselves going back and forth with different challenges. Now, when it comes to sanitary pads, one of the biggest issues is the fact that pads have taxation on them. How can we start pressurizing the government wholesomely to actually get rid of taxation on sanitary products and make them cheaper for the people?
So recently we were at the UN Commission on the Status of Women that held in New York this year. And in 2016, even the New York, as a city, not even as the government, took on the menstrual legislation B, which the idea is, let's get free pads to be donated to shelter homes, schools, and a lot of teenage mother disadvantaged. This is the essence whereby you see the need of our own government even imbibing in those culture. If you want to cut down on taxes, a lot of the manufacturer companies says it will not be a case for them because a lot of things have gone up, raw materials have increased, and it still has to do with economic policy. So the best thing is, like, why do you take it into B to say, okay, even if it's the Abacha loot that has been gotten from, and say, okay, let's use a large percentage of those loot to supply or make sure provision of these parts are made in essence. So curbing on taxes, curbing on creating an equity bid to see that people can have these constant supplies, and how do we also work with these manufacturers to see that if we have these provisions made in different ways, be it the producers of the disposable ones that we have, or we introducing the idea of creating jobs for women who would start making this part, knitting them like they do in other parts of the world.
I was just about to say that to you, social entrepreneurship for sustainability, yes.
So those are the cases to see that they can be empowered, and we should also look at difference of working with other organizations even outside the shows. Like in 2 weeks now, in London, they'll be creating something called the period panty, where you can use pants without even using pads, and you're secured for the rest of 1 to 3 years. Like, how much more can we start creating those innovations in our own country.
All right, now before you decided to do this, I'm sure you've done your own due diligence to find out how much information is out regards this. Now, growing up in secondary school, we used to have people come to talk to us in our schools about, you know, getting into puberty, about menstruation and the likes, and how we can protect ourselves as ladies. And they often came with free pads and shared, you know, in school. Now that you're involved in this, how aware? You know, give us an insight into, you know, how much people do not know about this. How many, if you go to the rural areas, how bad is it really? Give us an insight into it. Do they really know much about how to care about themselves? And do they really get much access? You're one of the people doing this, but does it seem like we have enough hands that are involved in this sort of project yet?
So for the engagement with us, and we'd like to take credit with the other partners we're working with, it's a learning process, and we want to change the narrative, like we said. For schools, during that time whereby pad manufacturers go to school, they give them the disposable pad. But we say something, you give them this month, what happens the next month? So you've taken pictures, you've had it printed out that you've supplied some pad to these girls. It's just like a girl uses sachet water or takes water from the tap, goes to a wedding on Saturday, gets a bottle of water, go back home, same bottle of water, he refills it and continue using it. It's the same thing that happens to those disadvantaged girls or school girls who can have the liberty of purchasing the pad the following month? Or do you have the cases of places in the slums who have not even seen this part before? We're surprised when we walked with a certain initiative in Ajegunle, and some of the teenage mothers were not really familiar with seeing the part for the first time.
That's exactly what I want to ask. So are there people in Nigeria that have never seen parts?
Yes. I was speaking with a certain celebrity who was like, can you tell me there's a problem, like we have different health issues like rape, we're talking about HIV, AIDS, and no. Are you saying part is also a case that people can afford 350 or 500? And I say we have a family of maybe six girls, who they have a monthly rent of 1,500, and they want to take about 350 or 450 to buy a pad for 6 other girls.
And that's bearing in mind that one packet of pads is not really enough for the length of one period as well. And a lot of governments and institutions don't seem to understand this point. Now, another issue that we have as well, Chase, is the fact that in a lot of developing countries, girls who are on their periods are told to stay out of the classroom until their period goes. Now, this affects the level of education when it comes to the girl child. How have you been able to impact that progressively?
So one thing for us is using our menstrual hygiene experts when we go to the schools, and we'd like to get even the school boys involved. What we say again is if the male teachers are involved also, it goes a long way to also driving the conversation. So we have a case of a young girl who says she just wants to sit on the floor, and the male teacher comes in with a cane and wants to flog her off that, and she just needed that time. But because the male teacher is not aware, she says maybe she's faking it and does not want to get up, or there's a stain on the girl's clothes, and the schoolboy does not have this kind of information, and he goes, oh, you're smelling, you have this stain, oh, just go away. Where it could just be gentleman-like, we're just using the sweater, cover up the girl, you know, show some sort of comfort. So those are the time we want to at least pass on this information to see that people are aware, people understand this conversation, where you get families or uncles who they are being approached by their sisters and says, okay, uncle, I need money for a pad. And he says, I pay for your school, I pay for basic house upkeep, and you want me to buy a pad for you? And he goes, I would have a boyfriend. I will get a guy who will buy this for me. And we say, how many rounds of sex would this girl have to go through to be able to purchase a pad? So we're talking about some certain cities now, we're saying we're curbing pad prostitution. So these girls do not want to slay anymore with jewelries or shirts or clothes. They just want to buy their pads every month. And these are the certain information we want to use through films, through even the media, to see that these informations are being passed on.
It's tragic.
So that people understand.
I think following from Leila's question, menstrual leave or period leave is really available in some countries now. I know that in certain countries they give you, I think in Japan they give you like 3 days a year, even though we know that periods don't last for 3 days in a whole year. You know, that is calculated as your period leave. Now, if you had to advocate for or against period leave, what side of the divide do you be on? Some people have said it's important that a woman is given those days off because we understand that some women have very painful periods, and people even think it's drama. Now, even with medical conditions like endometriosis, that makes it more complicated during your period. So some have advocated that once this period comes, please, I need my time off and I need to stay at home and rest, because you would never understand the level of pain, which differs from woman to woman. So if you have to advocate for
so to sound funny, I will take that period play to say, yes, I believe in it. Even the government, we don't even need to go to Kenya or go to Japan or those European countries. In Kenya, there was a particular public holiday for certain women to stay home because they were having heavy flows and all. And they knew that there were non-sufficient supplies of this part, so would help them manage the heavy flows during this period. Like we say, even in workplaces, in certain countries or banks, like I was speaking with a bank executive, and jokingly, he was like, oh, I don't talk about women issues. And I was like, what do you mean by women issues? You have a daughter, you have a wife. Like, why don't we stock up bank premises or telecom companies or even media companies with supplies of? So, like, you have the first aid kit. Let me go to a nearby bathroom. And we can't even start saying gender restroom. But let's say go to the women's restroom, open a box that is called a period, just like a first aid ball. Like, you can call it a period pause or a period box. And you can see parts to use. You can see lotions, you can see wipes, something that makes you comfortable. That sometimes you don't have to carry your big bag because you want to stock
back in the day when
up.
I was younger, if I wanted to buy a pad, I'd have to make sure that it's not a guy selling at the pharmacy because I'm too embarrassed. And then you put it inside one bag and wrap it inside another bag. And there's still so much stigma and misinformation surrounding periods. People still look at it as a taboo. Of course, we know that there's some religious restrictions that apply to it because in certain religions, when you're on your period, you're considered as unholy. But taking away religion, people still need to be informed about periods. Now, I think I should ask this question out there. Leila has talked about the fact that some people have argued that period leave affects the girl-child education. Some others have said that, many women go through pains and need this time off from work and from school. So let us know which side of the divide you're on. Are you for or against period leave? Let us know on Twitter at Wazobia Max with the hashtag Hello Nigeria.
Absolutely. Now, Chase, let's also speak about sustainable development because I know that you're very big on that field as well. The UN SDGs are set for 2030, and that is our goal. Where is Nigeria now? And what do we need to do to get to where we need to be?
So the conversation started with the Millennium Development Goals.
Oh, yes.
And now we're looking at the Sustainable Development Goals. We say it's 17 goals. Well, my own agenda has always been around gender equality, which is goal 5. We have the goal 4 for quality education. And we say the major goal is 17, which is partnership for the global goals. Let's all collaborate. That's where public-private partnership comes in. That's where individual social responsibility comes in, which I see is key. So as an individual, let's stop getting angry and take up this conversation, even if it's your tweet, if you're a celebrity that has an influence. Don't wait to government. Okay, it's the role of the Office of the Special Assistant to the President on the SDGs. Everybody's starting to take titles on. If there's a certain goal. So Chikudi just spoke earlier on about 10.5 million out-of-school children.
Yes.
We're saying if it's that part you could take on, they said the British government is taking on 12 years of quality education. Let Nigeria also say, okay, we want to take on one part. If it's the 10.5 million Nigerian children, if it's the Almajiri children, let's take that part. If it's on the environment or sustainable development in terms of
climate change,
employment, how much jobs do we want to provide? We don't need to provide the white-collar jobs anymore. If it's agriculture, how do we use technology to advance that? So we have innovators who are coming up. Now people are creating hackathons to help with the SDGs. If it's in the media, where do we pass on this information? Are people even really aware of these 17 goals? I was speaking to someone again, he's like, oh, what is your UN goals? Are they practicable? And we're saying that we can only take that concept if you as an individual can take up one goal. So the first goal is poverty. How much more? Do you say you want to go to the street and provide even the basic meal? So in the morning, in the afternoon, let me even share bread.
Yes.
It goes a long way to at least helping to achieve
Before
those
we
goals.
let you go quickly, we have now, like you mentioned, 10.5 million out-of-school children. Now it's about 60% of these children are girls. 60% of them see their periods. And we need to drive this campaign further. So if people needed to partner with you and wanted to be a part of your cause, how can they get in touch? And what kind of help would you want?
So we say the help is not just about pads. The help is not just about money. Let's make it a lifestyle. If you're a corporate organization, stock up your toilet facilities. If you're the media, pass on this information and communication. It's just not one person. Let's reach out to say, okay, there's World Menstrual Hygiene Day, celebrated
When is that?
globally.
Thursday, right?
It's 28, but we are doing ours on Thursday, 24, to pass on the conversation quickly to tell people that...
Where is it happening?
Yes, it's happening at the Civic Hive. It's in Yaba. We are inviting the Deputy High Commission to also talk about the fact that gender equality, education, and provision of the sanitary pads. And we're saying a menstrual hygiene kit box that contains everything, panty linings, whatever you can think of. Let these girls be protected and let the communication change. If you're in your period, it's not a shame. Go to the nearest pharmacist and you want to purchase it. purchase it with pride. We are saying even if you go to stores, there are cravings. You don't want to eat the pizza, the ice cream, because you say something that are sweet are not good for you. You can take them. I don't think it breaks that core because we've taken a lot of research around it. We're saying feel good, be better, be open.
Don't be embarrassed.
Yes, don't be embarrassed.
I'm on my period.
I'm on my period.
It's not a taboo.
And a man, we're saying also to the men, if you see that is happening. So we say a lot of ladies say, okay, during my period, we can have certain things to do together. Yes, understand that cramps or you have a tummy upset. It's not just about using mismark and all. Understand that this person just needs a certain level of care. And when you want to go the extra mile of buying the designer wears and all, understand that you can also go back and buy a pad, stock it up, and provide it for the girl.
Yeah, quickly, so final information, it's happening, World Menstrual Day is happening at Civic Tower.
It's at Civic Hive, is in Yaba.
Okay.
And we're having it from 2 to 5 p.m. We're talking about different courses and seeing how much role you can...
And is it for free?
Yes, it's for free. You can attend, and you can also bring pass to give to the schoolgirls we're inviting and see how much more you
and
can
social media
collaborate with.
handles.
So my social media handle is Chase Charity on Twitter and Charity Chased on Instagram.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Chase, for joining us.
Thank you so much. I actually
Thank
like
you.
this conversation.
Me
You know
too.
why? Because my next period, I'm going to have to tell Valentine, I really crave sugar during my period.
I'm going to tell Valentine, oh, I need menstrual leave.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love her.